Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show. Home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros.
Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show Action Edition, where we feature feedback from you, our listeners. And I'm here with my old buddy, Larry. Larry, what you been doing?
John, I've been doing stuff. I'll tell you, the big thing was we did get a
Stuff?
tip. Stuff. It's stuff. You know, I bet we can't
Okay,
talk about
stuff.
being busy all the time because it's boring. We get the same old thing.
Right.
But we got a tip. We got a tip from one of our listeners, and this had to do with the flattening of nail heads to not split wood, along with, I would say, pilot holes as well. But there's two things. So I thought I would turn it over to you, Johnny, because you do this a lot. I don't do it quite so much because I usually drill a pilot hole. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can certainly pile holes. It's just is really just surrounds splitting of wood, and especially when you have real thin pieces of wood, and you're just using just small nails to tack it up.
Yep.
And I think it's something my dad taught me maybe once, a long time ago, and the listener one of the listeners brought this up, and I agree with it because I use it a lot. Is just take the point of the nail, these little nails, and just smack them on the concrete, with a hammer to flatten them out so they're not so sharp.
Yep.
And that seems to stop the split when you go ahead and nail them in. And instead of doing pilot holes and spending all that time doing that stuff for little jobs, and I want to pass that along because that's something that it's aggravating when you're when you're trying to tack up some small piece of wood. And right now I'm thinking about the little trim stuff that I was tacking up on my bar and some thin oak pieces of trim that I was doing, and it started to split, and I kind of harken back on this a little tip, and it works like a charm. So all you folks out there, doing things like that, try that out, and it'll save you some aggravation.
Some aggravation. I'm going to make a quick comment. Now that I think about it, if you look at the nails that I use in our finishing guns, they're flat. They're not pointed. They're flat.
Correct.
So those little nail, and I never get a split when I use those. I never even thought about that until just now. I'm like, wait a minute, all my they're not really nails, they're brads, but all the brads that I shoot out my guns all have square tips, and it basically punches a hole through the wood. It doesn't drive it through. It literally punches a square hole through the wood. I see it mostly on the PVC. When you hit the PVC, you see a little chunk of plastic come flying out. But yeah, so flatten off the tips. I think it's a great tip. We want to thank who sent us that? I don't remember. Was it Tan? I can't remember. Anyway,
yeah, I think it was Tanner.
Somebody sent us those. So folks, we really appreciate that. If you've got a tip that you'd like us to put up on the air, trust me, we're in this to find out more tips so that we, along with sharing them, we want the tips for ourselves. I'm going to be honest. I love these tips because when I get these good tips, it saves us time, money, and aggravation. So if you have a tip that we've not mentioned, and we've got a couple more that we're going to do in the future coming up that people have send us to us because we'll mention you on the air. If you don't want us to mention us on the air, just send us a tip as anonymous, and we won't mention you. But we really appreciate it because every little tip that I get, it just goes back into my brain database, and I'm like, oh, when I'm doing this, I'm going to do this, and it saves me time, money, and aggravation, and that's just what I like. Anyway, you got anything else to add, Johnny?
No, you well spoken there, Larry. No, I don't. It's a great tip, and folks, coming up on the towards the end of the year, we're going to start to put a list of these tips together, and we're going to go through some of the top ones and on a countdown, because I've got some great ones that I've been using this whole year that I want to share with you all on my experiences.
John's number one tip: don't take any wooden nickels. Damn it, that tells you how old we are.
Yeah, don't go swimming after a heavy meal.
Go swimming after a heavy meal. Awesome. Well, folks, if If you enjoyed the Handyman Pros radio show and our bad jokes, we know they're bad, but we still laugh about it. We have a ton of fun doing this show, and we really appreciate you listening. If you like our show, please send it around to your friends and neighbors. Our website's out there. It's handymanprosradioshow.com. You can contact us through that. You can send us an email, questions at Handyman Pros Radio Show. You can send us an email at handymanprosradioshow@gmail.com. We are out there on Facebook at Handyman Pros. We appreciate you listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.